Hello and welcome to the From My Perspective podcast. I am your host, Marcus Marshall. And after some constructive criticism, I've decided to revamp the way I do my podcast. Going to add a little bit more personality into it. And by doing that, I'm going to start every podcast off with a rant or something that's been bothering me. So without further ado, let's dive right into it. And this is something that's been eating at me for the last couple of days, really couple of weeks, probably the last year to be honest, and it's picked up a lot of steam recently, and that's people saying the Western Conference is so much better than the East. And entirely too many people are saying that heedless statement. The Western Conference is not that much better than the East because they're both one-team conferences. You tell me who's beating Golden State in the 7-game series. No one. Don't even try to answer it. No one. Yes, the Western Conference has a ton of stars. You have Chris Paul. 4 of them lie in Golden State. Curry, Clay, Draymond, KD. Of course, you have the James Hardens, Jimmy Butler, Paul George, and Paul Millsap have joined that. But they're not game changers. The Thunder, Timberwolves, especially not the Nuggets, are beating the Warriors. The Clippers were arguably the closest team, and Chris Paul left because he couldn't beat the Warriors. The West has a lot of players, not a lot of great teams. You tell me what's so great about the West, because their playoffs aren't going to be that much more fun than the East. Okay, I get an Oklahoma City versus the LA Clippers. Neither team can hit a jump shot. Is that interesting to watch? Because no one can hit a shot beyond 15 feet outside of who? Lou Will? Doug McDermott? Russell Westbrook can't shoot. Paul George is a good, not great shooter. Blake Griffin can't shoot. DeAndre Jordan, we all know, is not shooting. So that series is a bore, and that'll probably go 6 or 7 games. Danilo Gallinari was the best shooter in that series. Then let's see, we get, let me think. We get a Spurs-Grizzlies series. Those are actually kind of entertaining to watch if you like defensive basketball and systematic basketball. So I'm not going to dog that one out too bad. And what else do we get? Let's see. A Utah, a Houston. Is that fun to watch? Utah versus Houston. No Gordon Hayward. Houston's winning that in 4 or 5 games. 5 games tops. And then those teams move on. How do they match up against the Warriors? The Warriors are sweeping the Rockets in 4. The Warriors are sweeping Utah in 4. I'd be surprised if any of those games came within 30. Golden State is sweeping the Clippers in 4 games. I'd be surprised if those came within 20. And who else? Oklahoma City. You really think Oklahoma City scares Golden State? That's a 4-game series, people. The Warriors will sweep the Western Conference again, because there is no challenger to the Warriors. The West is a bunch of names. No one's beating the Warriors, just like no one in the East is beating the Cavs. But I'd rather watch the Celtics versus Wizards go to 7. I'd like to see the Sixers get in the playoffs because the future of the league is in the East. Milwaukee, Boston, Philly. What does the West have in the future? Minnesota? It's not Houston, because in 3 to 5 years, the Warriors will dominate for 3 to 5 years. And Chris Paul will be, 36, 37? So Houston's out of the picture. The Clippers, they'll be old and washed up. They're out of the picture. So it'll just be one big role reversal, and we'll be talking about how bad the West is compared to the East. Have we forgotten just a couple years ago how deep the Eastern Conference was compared to the West? You had Miami, Boston, Chicago, Atlanta, Indiana. These were teams 3 to 4 years ago that we were talking about couldn't compete in the West. What did the West have to offer back then? A San Antonio, that's a viable. A young Oklahoma City? A Dallas? Where was the outrage then? Where? And the people saying mix the conferences, what a terrible idea that is. That's a scheduling nightmare. Players won't want to do it. It won't pass the collective bargaining. And we're still going to get 8 teams from each conference in. It'll just be one miserable thing for TV broadcasters. Because we have to wait an extra 2 to 3 days to see a Golden State versus Philadelphia first round series. A Cleveland versus Minnesota first round series. Is that really worth it? to end all be all be a Golden State Cleveland finals again? Is it really worth all that hassle? The West is just a bunch of names. And mixing the conferences is just a knee-jerk reaction. And it reminds me of how in the MLB, it was such a bore to watch the All-Star game that it was a rash decision to make the All-Star game count for home field advantage in the World Series. That is exactly what this would be if the NBA decided to do this. Mixing conferences is a terrible idea, and it will never work. Because at the end of the day, no one's beating Golden State, and no one's beating Cleveland for the foreseeable future, unless LeBron leaves, which means the East is wide open and more fun to watch. I'm going to take a quick break. We'll be right back with NBA free agency news. Welcome back to the From My Perspective podcast. I hope you did enjoy that, but that's 100% how I feel. Mixing the conferences is a knee-jerk reaction that doesn't accomplish anything, because guess what? It's not going to stop the Warriors from dominating, and it's not going to stop the Cavaliers from dominating. And so it's time to jump into the next topic, which is NBA free agency. And as we all know, former Jazz small forward Gordon Hayward decided to join the Boston Celtics. And now the Celtics are aggressively shopping Marcus Smart, Avery Bradley, and Jay Crowder to create cap space to sign Hayward. Excuse me. I say the Celtics need to keep Avery Bradley. We have a shortage of guards right now. Well, not really a shortage of guards. Shooting guards. And it'd be a big loss to let a player like him go, one of the best two-way players in the game. Should have made an all-defensive first team, if not second team. He was robbed this offseason. And I used to be on the bandwagon of keeping Marcus Smart, but, I mean, honestly, I'd rather get rid of Terry Rozier than Marcus Smart because Smart is just a better player. Jay Crowder, I feel like we could use in a deal to get more size, like a power forward, or probably in a big-time deal, because a lot of teams are interested in Jay Crowder, and it was just that Danny didn't want to part ways with him. But now that we have Tatum, Brown, and Hayward, he has no option but to deal Crowder. And I feel like sending him to Utah would set us back, actually, in terms of being able to trade for a marquee star, because now we only have draft picks, no real players that another team would want. And the easiest way to solve this, I think Al Horford should just take the pay cut. It couldn't be more than $5 million or $6 million the Celtics need. We can just restructure the contract. We can take the 5 or 6 up front and spread it out over the back end of his career, of his contract. Take 6 now, maybe give him 3 next year, 3 after that, 4, 2, however you want to work it out. We can restructure it, get the deal done, bring him in, and it's that simple. So that's the easy and the best fix. So if Horford wants to win, he'll definitely do that. And I hope he hears it, so he will do it. Because in my way, he wouldn't be losing money. He'd just be restructuring the way he gets it in the years he'd get it in. The Clippers, Hawks, and Nuggets agreed to a sign-in trade where the Clippers get small forward Danilo Gallinari, one of my favorite players in the NBA. The Hawks would get Diamond Stone, Jamal Crawford, and a 2018 protected first-round pick via Houston. And the Nuggets get power forward Paul Millsap and a 2019 second-round pick. The Hawks need to send the Clippers a thank you letter because they were getting ready to lose Millsap for absolutely nothing. And now they get Diamond Stone, a young center, in a 2018 first round. Jamal Crawford is likely to be bought out. And speaking of Jamal Crawford, I'm going to go off on that topic real quick. I thought he'd end up in Golden State. But Golden State used their mild exception on Nick Young, who we'll talk about later in the show. So now they only have to offer a veteran's minimum versus the Lakers, who can offer him more playing time, more money, and they won't win. He won't get a ring like he would in Golden State, but he'd get paid and put up decent numbers for, the back end of his career. So it'd be interesting to see what path he takes, whether it's the veterans minimum with Golden State or get the payday with get the payday with the Lakers. But the Nuggets also managed to clear cap in the deal to get Paul Millsap, and they also got a 2019 second round pick. So that's the news on that. Otto Porter signs a max offer sheet with the Brooklyn Nets, 4 years, $106 million, and the Wizards should let him walk. Cut your losses. Do not do this. We were calling Otto Porter a bust just 2 years ago. He was a bust out of Georgetown. No one wanted him in D.C., and he's gotten a lot better since that, but he's not a max contract player. There should be some parameters on what gets you a max contract if we're going to have a salary cap. Otto Porter is a three-point specialist. That's about it. But if I'm Washington, do I really want to fill my third max spot with an Otto Porter? No, you don't. Don't even answer it. Whether I have Otto Porter or not, if I'm the Wizards, we're not beating Cleveland. We're not beating Boston. We're stuck in third and fourth. We may not even beat Toronto. So I let them walk. We clear up cap to make a run at a big-time free agent next year. We clear up cap so we can make a big-time trade, hopefully bring in Boogie Cousins, who's played with John Wall, who's good friends with John Wall, and can actually win you games. And let the poorly run Brooklyn Nets strap themselves salary cap-wise because they don't have draft picks. Remember, that belongs to Boston next year. So they need young talent. Hence why they traded Brook Lopez for D'Angelo Russell. They need young talent, and they don't have the assets to get them. So they have to spend money and trade valuable players. So the Wizards need to just let them walk. We'll take a year. We'll get a little bit worse. But at the end of the day, we'll be better for it if I'm the Wizards. And I don't think it's that hard of a decision. I'd let them know right now, we're not bringing you back. Thank you for all you've done for the organization. He has been a good player for the organization, if we're all being honest. I know there's a big hole at small forward. Kelly Oubre is not the answer. He's not. Otto Porter was the best option at small forward. I do like Otto Porter, but if he wasn't in a rush and signed the max offer sheet from Brooklyn, I mean, he's young, he's getting the money. Who wouldn't do it? If I'm Otto Porter, I'm taking that deal. You won't be playing in the playoffs, but I'll take that deal. But I mean, at this point, the Wizards just have to let him walk. The Warriors, on the other hand, continue to win the offseason. Boy, this is crazy. The Warriors land Omar Caspi and Nick Young the other day in free agency. The Warriors and Caspi have agreed on a one-year veterans minimum contract, and they've gotten better at what they do. Shooting. We all remember back when Omari Caspi and Curry had their back-and-forth three-point mirage. That was exciting. I mean, it was all over Twitter. And now they got him on the team. They also signed Nick Young, Swaggy P, to a one-year $5.2 million deal, also known as the mild exception. And the Warriors bench looks 10 times better than it did last season. Now they have Livingston, Nick Young, Caspi, Iggy, and Jordan Bell off the bench, and they re-signed David West. Cleveland, you got your hands full this year, and I don't think anyone's stopping the Warriors. So for all those people claiming that the West is better than the East, no, it's not, because it's a one-team league. Your playoffs will be just as boring as the East because the Warriors will be sweeping through it. So that's the Warriors are winning the finals. Let's just leave it at that. The Sacramento Kings land two quality free agents in point guard George Hill and power forward Zach Randolph, who is having his number retired by the Memphis Grizzlies, is number 50. That is well-deserved. I remember his career in Memphis. It was an amazing career in Memphis. He deserves every last bit of the accolades he's reaping in Memphis at the moment. But as for the Kings, these are good signings because George Hill, who agreed to a 3-year, $57 million deal, could be a great mentor to a young De'Aaron Fox, who the Kings took with their 5th overall pick, while at the same time being a productive and efficient player. So I'm eager to see what those two can do on the court. And as for Zach Randolph, he could come in, play solid minutes, put up numbers for the Kings. And I have to tip my hat to the Kings. They're doing a heck of a job right now in the offseason. They won the draft. They're doing good free agency signings. They avoided the Otto Porter max. That would have set them back big time in my mind. That would have made them actually one of the losers in the free agency, if not one of the more average free agent off seasons. You wouldn't have been able to get Zach Randolph and George Hill if you committed that kind of money to Otto Porter. So good move, smart move there by the Kings. The Miami Heat and Dion Waiters agreed to a 4-year, $52 million deal last night. And this is a good deal both ways because Waiters gets his money as he's earned last season, putting up big numbers, hitting clutch shots down the stretch. And the Heat didn't really overpay to keep him. About $12 million, $13 million a year is what that comes out to. So it's pretty good deal both ways. Dion Waiters gets his money. The Heat get a good quality player to keep at the shooting guard position. Meanwhile, they await for a big-time free agent to sign, which is going to happen sooner or later. And just some other notable free agency moves. Kevin Durant re-signs with the Warriors on a 2-year, $53 million deal. LeBron-like deal. He'll probably have the player option to opt out again next year. Patrick Peterson agrees to a 3-year, $16.4 million deal with the Thunder. Andre Roberson agrees to a 3-year, $30 million deal with the Thunder. Darren Collison agrees to a 2-year, $20 million deal with the Pacers. And Jody Meeks agrees to a 2-year, $7 million deal with the Pacers. Well, I hope you enjoyed this podcast. There are a lot more changes coming to the podcast soon. Let me know what you want to see. Is there any specific, flow, topics, and anything you want to hear in the podcast? Let me know. I'll be back next time. See you.